Go stand in the middle of your house and count the things that make water. You will get the water heater, the washing machine, the dishwasher, the ice maker in the freezer door. 4 or 5 appliances, and every one of them has a hose or valve you have looked at least once. Now, here is the one you missed. Right now, on a muggy August afternoon, the appliance moving the most water in your house is your air conditioner. 5 to 20 gallons a day, pulled straight out of the air you are breathing, and all of it leaves through one skinny plastic pipe nobody living here has ever laid eyes on. Nobody thinks of the air conditioner as a plumbing appliance. Now, that is exactly why ceilings come down in August. I am Roger. I work on old houses, and I'm going to show you a job that takes 90 seconds, costs about $4 for the whole cooling season, and prevents one of the more expensive accidents a house can have. I will also show you a 10-second test you can run from your own yard in your slippers that tells you whether it is already going wrong. And before we are done, I am going to tell you about a small part cheaper than filling your gas tank. That makes the flooded ceiling version of this story impossible. Most older systems were never given one. Yours probably was not. Let us start with where all that water comes from, because once you see the path, the rest of this is obvious. Your air conditioner does 2 jobs, and almost everybody only knows about the first one. It cools the air. Fine. The second job is that it dries the air, and the drying is not a bonus feature. It is a physical consequence of how the machine works. Inside your indoor unit, there's a set of very cold coils. That box has a name worth knowing. It is called the air handler, because it handles the air, as opposed to the loud box outside that handles the refrigerant. Your house air gets pulled across those cold coils, and the moment warm, damp air touches something cold, the water in it condenses. Same thing that happens to a glass of iced tea on a porch table in July. The glass is not leaking. The air is giving up its water onto the cold surface. Your coils are that glass, except much bigger, running for hours at a stretch. So water beads up, runs down the coil fins, and drips into a shallow metal or plastic tray underneath called the drain pan. From the pan it goes into the condensate line, that is the drain, and it is usually a 3/4-inch piece of white PVC pipe, which is to say it is about as wide as your thumb. Sit with that for a second. Every gallon your system pulls out of the air on the stickiest day of the year has to leave through a pipe the width of your thumb. And unlike every other drain in the building, this one has no fixture on it, no sink, no trap you can reach. It just runs through a joist bay to the outside, and it has been doing that all summer, without a word to you. Here is why it fails. That pipe is warm, dark, and wet essentially all the time from May to September. If you sat down and tried to design the perfect greenhouse for algae, you would build that pipe. So algae grows, slime grows, and dust off your coil settles in and gives it something to hold on to. It does not close all at once. It closes the way plaque closes an artery. A film, then a layer, then a ring, and the water keeps getting through the whole time so you never notice. The bore just quietly gets smaller. Then on some Thursday in the worst heat of the year, when the system is making the most water it will make all summer, the opening finally gets small enough that water backs up faster than it drains. Now the pan fills, and the pan is shallow. It was never built to be a reservoir. It was built to be a gutter. When it goes over the edge, whatever is under your air handler starts getting rained on from above. If the unit is in the attic, that is your bedroom ceiling. And this is where the arithmetic gets ugly, so let me lay it out plain. Vinegar is about $4 for a store brand gallon, and 1 gallon covers the whole cooling season with plenty left over. Getting a technician out to clear that line runs about $75 to $250 in most of the country. Call on a weekend or after hours or with the unit in a miserable attic and expect the high end or better. Repairing a water-damaged ceiling runs $500 to $2,500 because it is not a patch. They cut the wet section out, pull the soaked insulation, check the framing, hang new board, and then somebody has to match your ceiling texture, which is its own small nightmare. And if that drywall sat wet long enough to grow mold, remediation commonly runs $1,200 to about $3,750, $4 on one side, thousands on the other. Same pipe. I told you at the top there is a part that makes the ceiling version impossible, and I have not said what it is yet. I am holding it because it changes the whole calculation, and I want you to have the habit first. Before I put the cup in your hand, you ought to know where a job like this comes from. None of it is mine. It is the ordinary working knowledge of the trade, written down at last where a homeowner can reach it. I gathered it into a digital book called 100 Old House Fixes That Save You Thousands. 100 of them written plain, with at-home checklists and a seasonal maintenance calendar in the back. This drain line sits on that calendar under the cooling months, which is why it is on your mind in August and not January. If you want it, pick up your phone, open the camera the way you would to photograph the dog, and hold it toward the square code on screen until a bar slides up. Tap that. If the code fights you, the link is in the description. Go at your own speed. Nothing here is going anywhere, and neither am I. All right, cup in hand. Go find your air handler. Attic, utility closet, basement, garage. Look for the white PVC pipe leaving the bottom of it, and then for a fitting on that pipe shaped like a capital T, standing up, with a cap on top. That is your Axis T. It exists for this purpose and no other. Somebody put it there so a person could pour something into the line without cutting it. Before you touch anything, shut the system off. Not the temperature setting, the actual off. Go to the thermostat and switch the system to off. And if you want to be thorough, kill the breaker to the air handler. You are about to put liquid into a drain that runs past your coil, and you do not want the blower pulling on that line while you work. Take the cap off the T. It usually turns by hand. If it has been on since the system was installed, it may want a gentle twist with a rag for grip, but it is not glued, and you are not fighting it. Now, 1 cup of distilled white vinegar. The plain, cheap, clear kind. Not apple cider vinegar. And I want to be specific about why. Cider vinegar has sugars and sediment in it, and you would be pouring food into a pipe where the whole problem is that things are growing. Pour it slowly. Not a dump, a pour. You want it running down the inside wall of that pipe and coating the surface, because the surface is where the growth lives. A cheap funnel or the top half of a cut water bottle makes it far less annoying. Cap it back on. Give it 30 minutes, then run warm, tap water through the same T to move everything along. Warm, not boiling, because you are pouring into plastic pipe with glued joints. Turn your system back on. That is the entire job. Once a month through cooling season. Now let me be honest about what that cup does and does not do, because people oversell this. Vinegar is a preventative. It discourages growth and keeps a young film from turning into a mat. What it is not is a drain cleaner. If your line is already properly plugged, a cup of vinegar will not blast through it, and anybody who says otherwise is selling you a disappointment. Vinegar keeps a clean line clean. It does not rescue a closed one, and we will get to the closed one shortly. Two more things while you have the cap in your hand, and both of them matter. Do not use bleach. I know you have heard it your whole life, and a neighbor swears by it. The manufacturers themselves write against it. Ream and Root put it right in the air handler installation instructions, telling you not to put caustic household drain cleaners such as bleach in the condensate pan or near the indoor coil, because it will quickly damage the coil. Bleach eats aluminum and copper, and your coil is made of aluminum and copper. It works on the cement in your glued PVC joints too. You are not saving a service call with bleach. You are shopping for a bigger one. And here is the safety line I need you to lock in, because this one can put you on the floor. Never combine bleach and vinegar. Not in the pan, not in the tea, not one after the other. Bleach mixed with an acid gives off chlorine gas. Health departments publish hazard alerts about this exact mistake. Low levels burn your eyes and throat. Higher levels do real damage to your lungs. If you have been using bleach in that line, flush it thoroughly with plain water and give it time before switching to a vinegar. Do not chase one with the other. Fair enough? Good. And while we are on the subject, there is one more honest note I owe you. Vinegar is gentler than bleach by a wide margin, and it is what most technicians will tell you to use. But it is still a mild acid, and a handful of manufacturers now write against putting either one in their equipment. So do two things. Pour into the tea, which sends it down the line in a way, rather than sloshing it around in the metal pan where the coil lives. And if you still have your manual, spend 2 minutes looking. If your manufacturer says water only, listen to them over me. There are also slow dissolving pan tablets made for this, $5 to $15 a pack, for anybody who would rather not put acid near the machine. Now let us follow the water all the way out of the house, because the other end of this pipe is where your best diagnostic lives. Somewhere outside your house, usually low, usually near the foundation, usually behind a shrub that has been quietly swallowing it for years, there is a little white pipe stub coming out of the wall. That is the far end of your condensate line. Go find it and give yourself a minute, because it is less obvious than it sounds. Here is your test, and it costs nothing. On a hot, humid day with the air conditioning running, that stub should be dripping steadily. A drip every few seconds, sometimes a thin trickle, and a damp patch on the ground under it. That is a healthy system doing its second job. If it is a genuinely muggy afternoon, your system has been running for hours, and that stub is bone dry with dry ground beneath it. You have a problem right now. The water is being made. It has to be. So if it is not coming out here, it is going somewhere else, and there's only one somewhere else. That is your early warning, and it is free. Look at that stub once a week in summer when you're already outside. 10 seconds, and it is the most useful thing in this video. Now let us say you looked and it is dry. Do not panic and do not call anybody yet. Get a wet dry vacuum. Almost everybody has one in the garage, and if you do not, a neighbor does. Take the paper filter out, because you are about to pull water, and paper turns to mush. Set it to vacuum, not blow. Take the hose to that outside stub and seal it over the end. The seal is the whole game. A rag wrapped around the joint, duct tape, your hand in a wet cloth. Anything that closes the gap between hose and pipe. If air gets in around the outside, you are just making noise in the yard. Hold the seal and run it 1 to 2 minutes. You are pulling from the clean end toward the clog, which drags the plug backward into your tank instead of pushing it deeper. Then shut it off and look in the tank. You will know. It comes out as a slug of gray-brown slime you would rather not describe at dinner, and it is deeply satisfying. That is what has been growing above your ceiling all summer. Go back inside, run warm water through the tea, then check the stub again. If it is dripping, you fixed it. Give it 2 or 3 honest tries first, because 9 times out of 10, a failure is a failed seal, not a failed method. Let me run through the things that go sideways, since this is where people get stuck. Nothing came out and the stub is still dry. First suspect is always the seal, so wrap it tighter and go again. Second, make sure the system is actually off, because a running blower changes the pressure in that line. Third, if 3 good attempts get you nothing, the blockage is farther in than a vacuum reaches, and that is a legitimate service call. You cannot find an access T anywhere. This happens more than you would think on older installs. Have one added next time a technician is in the house for a tune-up. It is a small piece of PVC and a few minutes of work. Your air conditioner shut itself off and will not restart. And there's water in the pan. Do not fight it and do not look for a way to override it. Something just did its job on purpose, and I will explain what in a minute. A musty smell around the vents means standing water in the pan or the line. Same story as the dry stub, same fix. Water is already coming through the ceiling. Stop. Shut the system off at the thermostat and the breaker, get a bucket and towels under it, and call somebody. Water and ceiling and electrical in one place is not a homeowner job and never will be. Knowing where that line is drawn is worth more than any tip in this video. Same rule for the rest of it. Do not open your air handler. Do not poke at the coil. Do not pull apart a condensate pump if you have one, which is the little box some systems use to push water uphill when there is no gravity path out. Anything with refrigerant in it, anything behind an electrical panel, that is somebody else's work. You are here for the drain, and the drain is genuinely yours. All right? I promised you the part, and here it is. It is called a float switch, sometimes a condensate overflow switch, or a safety switch. It is a small plastic device that sits in the drain pan or clips onto the drain line, and it does one thing. It watches the water level. If the water rises past where it should be, a little float lifts and the switch cuts the control circuit, shutting your air conditioner off. That is the entire technology. A float in a cup, same working principle as the fill valve in your toilet tank. Think about what that means. With one in place, the flooded ceiling cannot happen the usual way. The line clogs, the pan fills, the switch trips, and the system stops making water. You get a hothouse and a mystery instead of a ruined ceiling. And a hothouse is an inconvenience while a ceiling is a $500 to $2,500 renovation with a mold bill possibly stapled to it. The part is $20 to $50. If you have a technician out for a tune-up anyway, Adding one is usually under $100 installed because they are already standing there with the panel open. So why doesn't your house have one? Because for a long time, nobody was required to put them in. And on an older install, the person doing the work put in what the job called for and moved on. Not a scandal, just what got built. Newer work and attic installs are far more likely to have one. Here is how to check. Look at the drain pan and at the drain line right where it leaves the air handler. For a small plastic device, usually white or gray, with two thin wires running out of it. If you see it, you have one. If you see nothing but bare pipe and a bare pan, you do not. And that is the best $20 to $50 you can spend on that machine. And if your air handler is in the attic, I will be blunt. It is not optional. An attic unit sits directly above your finished ceilings with nothing in between. And that pan is the only thing between a clogged pipe and your bedroom. Get the switch. Now notice what just happened. If the float switch prevents the disaster, why pour vinegar every month at all? Because they protect two different things. The switch protects your ceiling. The vinegar protects your air conditioning. A clogged line with a float switch means your system shuts off in August and stays off until somebody comes out. That is a hot weekend and a service call. A clean line means it keeps running and nobody has to come at all. One protects the house. The other protects the summer. You want both? And together they run about $4 a season and one small part. That is the whole thing. You know where the water comes from, why the pipe closes, how to keep it open, how to test it from the yard, how to clear it when it goes, and the name of the part to ask for. If you want the rest of what I know written down in order, it is in that digital book, 100 Old House Fixes that save you thousands. A good chunk of it is about telling the difference between a cheap patch that actually holds and a cheap patch that is just hiding a bill. And there is a section on what to ask a contractor, so you are steering the conversation instead of nodding along to it. Same two ways in as before. Camera app pointed at the code on your screen or the link down in the description, whichever is easier from where you are sitting. And if you want more old house fixes that keep your money in your pocket instead of somebody's invoice, subscribe to Roger the Pipe Guy, because that is what we do here. Go find that stub in the yard. Do it today, while it is hot out and the system is running, because today is when it will tell you the truth. I will see you next time.